Well, Henshaw here again, your friendly local constitutional coop from California. And I'm here to do a follow-up video in another important area that many of you are being adversely affected in, and that's mortgages and foreclosures. And this one is so evil, it's hard to even put into words. And there's so much crap goes on behind the scenes here with this. And even though you think it's your property, what you're going to learn is that the New York bankers and all those bastards that are involved that control the government, especially in my former hometown of Washington, D.C., think you don't have any interest in it at all. And this goes hand in glove, by the way, with the Internal Revenue Code, where they operate on the principle that a taxpayer, quote unquote, has a zero interest in his time and labor. You'll learn all about that. Send me an email, youwinningcourt@gmail.com. I'll send you information, on this and a lot of other big time issues that we need to get into the courts and to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that court is going to have our back on a lot of what I'm talking about here. Because they're acting like a judicial court first time in 90 years. And they're finally doing things right, and they're getting a lot of flack for it, no doubt, from the mindless mainstream media and their New York bankster bosses. So ignore pretty much all you read there. It's irrelevant. But they're trying to get back to original intent. And that's exactly the goal that I have and that you should have. And that's true, even though it might appear at first glance to be on a quote unquote white supremacist premise. And that's true. You'll learn more about that too. But the big deal is getting back to the original intent of the framers. And that takes us back to the federative Republican form of government of defined and limited powers, not today's elected despotism. You want to get rid of that as quickly as we can. It should never have been there. Been there at least 90 years and probably longer than that, going back to FDR and HJR 192. But you learn about these things, and you'll learn from the U.S. Supreme Court. They're saying it, not me. That if you use paper money to pay off things, you haven't, only discharged the obligation, the debt's still due, and you don't have any perceived property rights. But you should, because those paper dollars you pay them represents your property in the form of your time and labor. And the Seventh Amendment, which doesn't apply to the states, by the way, but it does apply to the territory that you're in, pretending to be a state admitted into this union, says the trial by jury is secured in all cases where the amount in controversy exceeds $20. Probably no problem for the house that you're sitting in right now. I would expect it would cost a few more dollars than that, quote unquote. And that does apply in territories. If we are in a sovereign independent state, we've got a right to trial by jury also. That becomes every law in the book that they pass becomes a bill of attainder, taking life, liberty, or property without judicial process. Article 1, Section 9 or 10, the feds can't do it, the state can't do it. Where the hell are we that they think they can do it? And you'll learn all about that. Send me request for information at youwinningcourt@gmail.com. And when you do that, I'm going to offer you a free 4-page stand down letter to your friendly local sheriff against these mortgage bankers and people like this, and telling them in no uncertain terms you take no action, even if they get what looks like a judgment, because they don't have one. And we're telling the sheriff also to pick up the phone, call the governor, and ask him, pursuant to his sworn duty, to see the laws are faithfully executed, to train you in what the hell you're supposed to do like this. And it's even worse because not only does the trial court, quote unquote, aka administrative tribunal, not have any jurisdiction at all, it's true across the board. There are no judicial courts, no trial by jury, no qualified members to pick jury selection from, jury panel. None of it's there. And that goes back to the fact that you look at the state constitution, quote unquote, the one they think is in effect today, and it says, for example, as it does in Iowa, that the qualified electors are United States citizens who reside in Iowa. No, they don't. They reside for all apparent intents and purposes in the District of Columbia, my former hometown, 28 USC 7408. That's how they're getting away with it, because they think you don't know it, and they sure as hell don't teach you in the mandatory public quote-unquote education system. I've got another video coming up on that one shortly. You're going to love this one. And they don't want you to know anything like this, because once you do, you can expose the entire thing. And the current justices, thank God for this one, when we get there, and it will be in the original jurisdiction, not the appellate side, know they have the sworn duty to answer our questions. And one case like this gets there with a mortgage banker or eviction or you name it, will set a precedent that's valid from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. The good news, people, is you're rolling the loaded dice now, just like we're supposed to be. And the other side can't afford to risk it. It's not just your case. The Supreme Court make one decision like this on the record, it changes the ball game virtually overnight, and we get headed on full speed ahead back to the original intent of those racist framers. The federated Republican form of government of defined and limited powers. And you can learn all about that. Send me requests for information at youwinincourt@gmail.com. And you'll get a load of it. You won't believe what's going on out there, and we can prove absolutely all of it. It's astounding, it really is. And I didn't get through overnight, by the way. I was ignorant, probably the league leader in ignorance when I graduated from high school at 19, way back in the day. Much better education, by the way, because it was run by the County Board of Education at the time, not the state board in Annapolis where I was. Now they got complete control of the system these days, and they got all this transgender crap in there and LGBTQ. Singularly inappropriate, especially in elementary school and maybe in junior high school. It's a discussion for another day. But there's very little. I mean, the 3 R's have been, thrown to the wayside. You don't even hardly get those anymore. And even kids in 8th and 9th grade have very little in the way of reading skills. And what does that tell you? When the time comes and you happen to get in front of a panel like that as jurors, they're going to have a hell of a time if we can't educate them ourselves. And that's the business I am in, to do just that. And put these crooks out of business across the board, whether they're in my hometown of Washington, D.C., or New York banksters, and out there on Wall Street, or anybody like that that has financial interest against the American people. So that's how important it is, and it's important for you, your children, and your posterity. That's why we want to make differences here, and we can do it, and do very well at one and the same time. So remember to send me, request for information, youwinincourt@gmail.com, and I'll send you my free document on this mortgage bankster business, and you can go from there and get that to the sheriff, the county board of education, the governor, and anybody else, the attorney for the plaintiff, landlord, quote unquote, or mortgage bankster, I should say, and let them know that you know what the score is here, and you intend to settle it quickly. So that said, remember to subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner that happens, the quicker we get these bastards off our backs. Thank you.